Len, thanks a lot for dropping in on the podcast today. Really delighted to have you here and really looking forward to exploring this with you, this conversation today.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
You're a successful business owner, you're a published author, you have a family and a daughter, you've got a very busy life, and also you teach meditation and Buddhism too. So when you mix all of that in, it's quite a lot of things to deal with. So I thought that that would be a really good basis to explore a little bit what is success and what does that really mean? Like, what is the success we experience and how we feel about that? But to start, to get us there, I thought it'd be good to maybe understand a little bit about your background and what led you to practicing meditation and Buddhism over time.
Yeah, I've always been kind of a searcher in my life, and I always kind of had this weird sense that there was something not quite right about my life, but life in general, and that there was something profoundly missing from my life. And I think we all can agree that we go through our own kind of searches in weird ways. Sometimes we don't really know we're kind of searching to fill in that gap inside of us. So I think there's kind of like that sense, and I had that sense for most of my life, that I'm just not fulfilling the purpose of why I'm supposed to be here. And I think a big chunk of that was this desire to become financially stable and successful, and to just be blunt about it, to make money, and a lot of it. You know, my big dream was if I could just have $100,000, $100,000, all the problems I could possibly imagine in my life would be completely solved. I had a bicycle, needed a car. Well, $100,000 to get me a car. I had notebooks, I needed a computer. Well, $100,000, I could probably get a computer. I'm surfing on my friends' couches, kind of going from place to place. Didn't really have a place that I was paying rent to live in. Well, $100,000 would solve those problems as well. And I had all these lists of things that I wanted. I had these books, what do they call those, little vision quest books, and I would write all my goals and all the things I wanted. And the end result was $100,000 will solve all those problems. Now, it's funny, I spent the entire duration of my 20s trying to make that amount of money, including starting an incredibly ridiculous hot air balloon business in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which was a complete, utter disaster. I thought I was a genius at the time. My dad and I, he was a balloon pilot, and we wanted to start a balloon business in South Carolina. So we moved from Boston, just us two. He was still married, we still had the family, but we wanted to try this out because we thought we could actually make this work. And we thought we were geniuses because there was no competition. And the reason why was because it's literally the worst place in the United States to fly a balloon. And so we'd have to drive all the way inland and pray that the wind wasn't, going directly towards the ocean, because if it did, we would literally just be swept out into the ocean. And we came very close many times. We had one instance where we actually took off in the balloon with 4 paying customers, 4 people who were paying good money to be in that hot air balloon, and immediately enveloped in complete fog. But I remember I'm in the middle of this balloon flight with my dad, and I'm looking at my dad, he's looking at me, and he's utterly terrified. And I'm like, because he's the pilot of the balloon, now I'm terrified, and I'm like, what are we doing? What is this? What's the point of this business? This is insane. So after so many failed attempts at trying to make my life work, I eventually stumbled into a Buddhist retreat. And I heard things for the first time about life and about what really the meaning of life was. It doesn't mean you have to give up making money. It doesn't mean you have to give up your job or go to the Himalayas and try to find a guru. In fact, modern Buddhism really is what they were teaching back then, where you have a regular life and you figure out a way to kind of weave your spiritual practice into your life. And that's kind of how it all got started.
And what I love about what you're saying there is you were really searching for meaning.
Yes.
And that's the thing that most of us are struggling with these days. I feel like my life at some level feels meaningless. And I guess that's what brought you, in a sense. That's why I was intrigued by your sense of I was looking for meaning, because obviously you were working super hard, but you weren't finding what you really wanted.
I think that's a outstanding point, because I think a lot of people think, oh, when I enter the spiritual path, that fire is going to be extinguished, and then I'm not going to be doing anything interesting. My life's going to be boring. I can tell you from personal experience, I have more ambition and deep drive right now in my life, in my late 50s, than I've ever had in my life. And not only is it just about that drive, but it's the drive to do things that do make a difference. So in my 20s, I self-published and wrote, because I wanted to be an author in my 20s. And I wrote some of the literally worst books ever written. And they were so bad, I self-published these on my own because nobody else would really publish them. And I know this because I sent out books galleys all the time. And I'm not joking, I have a collection of 1,000 rejection letters from publishers, over 1,000, from everybody that rejected all the books I wrote. And I was not deterred. I was going to keep continuing doing this. And if they didn't like them, I'm going to make them like them by publishing them myself. Some of the most embarrassing, horrific. Luckily, they were under another pen name, so you'll never find out what they were. And I'll never tell.
Go on, give us the pen name.
Oh my gosh, just horrific. But there were just so many things I did with this drive, but not having the wisdom to know what were the right things for me to be doing. And so, yes, I'm a self-published author now. I've sold actually many copies of books, but I don't write these pedantic spiritual books, and they were awful pedantic spiritual books. Now I write children's books, and I realize, it's not that I wasn't supposed to be a writer. I was writing the wrong kind of books. I write these little goofy, silly, rhymey, books about frogs swimming in toilets now, and they're great and they're fun. My daughter loves them. I did it when she was born. I started reading books to her and stuff. But I think it's important to realize that our fire will only get deeper when we're mixing it with meaning. And I think that's why having the spiritual practice and using all of the things that we're doing in our life for our own spiritual growth is so important. So crucial, actually.
But of course, as you know, that's not easy. And I'd be interested to get your take on that. It's like, that's not easy to prioritize when you have all these other external problems, but it's absolutely necessary.
We had this really interesting experience during COVID. One of our businesses is a coffee shop. And when COVID started, basically all our employees left. And so we had a choice. We would shut down the shop or keep it running. And we decided we were going to shut down the shop. So my wife and I went in and we put the shades down and we were ready to shut. And then people started coming in. I'm like, all right, well, we'll give you a little cup of coffee, do a little this for that. We'll do a few little things. And then we realized, actually, people want to come in and they want to be part of our community and they want to actually talk to people and hang out. So we became the people who were working for us, which was Rebecca worked the cash register and I became a barista, which is something I never wanted to do. I never, ever wanted to work as a barista and have to just work in a retail outlet. But I realized we're actually serving the community here. People really wanted to come in and hang with us. And so we did that for almost a year. It was just me, myself and Rebecca, and then maybe one or two other baristas would kind of come back. And I tell you, we learned it was so hard. It was so hard working with the public and so hard dealing with the craziness that the pandemic naturally brought up in a lot of people and having to just kind of process through that. Some people would come in and be so upset and angry, no matter what you gave them, no matter how nice you were to them. They were just so, just depressed and miserable because this is the only time they got to come out. And when they did come out, they were just fearful and had a lot of anxiety. And we learned so much because of the pain of having to just do that job, which is a difficult job, doing it on our own day after day. And I'll tell you a couple of things that came out of that. The first thing was we have such a deep love and respect for the people who work for us now because we know how hard the job is. And my attitude when we were just paying them and they were doing the job was vastly different before I actually did that job over and over again, day in and day out, because it wasn't just about keeping the shop open and keeping the business running. It almost didn't matter because the government was kind of stepping in and helping out anyway, but just doing it almost as a public service. So I gained a deep respect for the people who worked for us and almost a deep love because I appreciate them so much in a way that I couldn't have ever fathomed, but also a deep respect and love for having to deal with the most minuscule, idiotic, nuanced problems that normally I would just have nothing to do with. I'm like, you guys sort that out, unless the customer's really complaining. I really had nothing to do with dealing with difficult, irate customers. But now I was doing it every day. And my wife was really the one out front. And she's so amazing, practicing patient acceptance and just learning we learned more. And we actually look back at that year with so much gratitude because we learned more. Because it wasn't just doing the coffee shop. We also had to run our other business, plus the meditation center. And all the chaos that was kind of involved in all of those juggling, all those different difficulties and problematic situations that kept arising, but also the deep appreciation of just gaining, I wouldn't say a realization of patient acceptance, but gaining a day by day, just you're thrown into the middle of these situations and there's no escape except patient acceptance. Like there's no escape. So either I learn to practice this patient acceptance or I'm going to be just in the worst situation imaginable. But overall, I look at that as like, what profound, amazing opportunity to really train my mind. And I look back at that time as probably one of the most amazing retreats of my life because there was no escape.
It's amazing that when you think about it, because like when we start to prioritize where I'm working from, so like you say, just allowing yourself to appreciate those people who've worked for you for those years prior to that situation, just giving yourself pause to appreciate, actually, this is a tough job, can totally transform your experience of your day. We all want to feel a deeper sense of connection with people, but the success isn't the money you made on that day or the growth of your business in that period. It's actually, I'm really feeling like I'm feeling a deeper sense of connection with people. I'm feeling more at peace with difficult situations. Through all of these difficult people and challenges that they come in with, I'm actually becoming more resilient. They're my kind teachers, actually.
100%. And I'll be honest, when the time came when the employees came back, I was very grateful, and I never willingly just jumped behind the bar for the heck of it because it was really hard. But I actually learned this from my teacher Geshe Kelsang Yato, who's a world-renowned meditation master and author. He's always kind of like the lowliest of all as far as like how he considers himself, always a servant to others. And whenever we would do our events, anytime we'd have hundreds of people come to help pitch in and run the events. I'd always be there loading in, loading out, setting up the booth. Like I would be there, and I always tell them like, whatever you guys think you're doing, because we give little speeches throughout the weekend or whatever, whatever you guys think you're doing, I promise you, I've either done the job or I will do it this weekend. And there's nothing that you have done or will do that I haven't done myself. And I love doing it because I love these events and I love supporting all of you. And this is really all about you, because without you being here to help facilitate this, we won't even have an event. We can't do this on our own, my wife and I. There's no way. And I remember how much more enjoyable it is, instead of just like pointing the finger and directing people and trying to figure out how you go over here, like just being in the thick of things and working kind of like they call it like management by action. Like you're in the thick of the activity, cherishing everybody and trying to make even the most mundane health event fun, interesting, but also meaningful, and trying to find that meaning. And I always used to say like, oh, listen, this isn't just about selling a bunch of health products or trying to like get people on the stream to purchase our stream. It's about helping people, and trying to give them information that they need or they want in a way that's fun and entertaining. Like we're trying to cherish people through this event. And that was always our attitude. And I think it did kind of trickle down from us to the staff, to all the participants. And I think it helped really grow our company en masse because people realize it's a great time to come to the events. Now we don't do them anymore because they were just so exhausting and, they were just so difficult to put on. It's a year of time, much rather do meditation events now and promote those.
But it's like almost you learn through that, don't you? Like say like your motivation to put on a meditation event now is essentially the same kind of orientation you had when you're putting on those events. And I think it's really important for people to really reflect on that. Anyone listening to the podcast today, it's not what you do in life that makes life feel really meaningful, purposeful, successful. It's really where you're doing it from. But that's why we go back to what we were talking about earlier on. You've got to prioritize your own mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. You've got to prioritize your own inner well-being, because success for you will never feel like success unless that's in balance and you're really paying attention to that.
And there's no end. There's no end to the job. There's no end to whatever you have to do. It can keep going on without you or with you. And eventually you have to reach a point in your life and in your career where you're starting to take time away from that job. So you asked me before I got here, oh, how's your business doing right now? And I'm like, well, I'm actually here really on retreat, and I'm really trying to forget about all of that for the weeks I'm here, because it's important to forget about the problems we normally see, because those problems we normally see are always going to be there until we decide I don't want to see them anymore, either the way they're appearing in my mind, or I'm just going to ignore them for a little while. And I try to do that even during my day-to-day meditation practice. I literally need to forget everything it is that I'm working on and thinking about and consumed with, and a problem that, like, I have to forget it, because that has nothing to do with the practice I'm engaging in. And actually, it's going to deter a lot, because there's literally never going to be an end to the problems that I can think about, ever. And if I don't make that determination in my mind, like, I'm going to stop thinking about the problem at all for this half an hour or 20 minutes, I mean, your problem's going to survive the 20 minutes you don't think about it. And even the few weeks that I'm away, those problems are going to either solve themselves or still continue on, whether I'm there or not, because that's the nature of samsara problems in the world. They just show up whether we want them to or not. And so it's really important to have that discipline. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, because sometimes I'll be in a meditation halfway through it and realize I haven't even heard the meditation because I'm still thinking about something, some difficulty I'm trying to work out. And I'm like, oh, I gotta let go of this. This is not healthy, not helpful.
It's such an important part, isn't it, of like your life, obviously, and anyone who's kind of struggling with the busyness of life and so forth, is to really, really bed in a daily meditation practice. It really comes down to you giving time and space to that.
And I think you just said it really well. The not having space in our mind, and I think a lot of anxiety, I think a lot of depression is we're so inundated with busyness and activity and distractions that we don't take any time. It's like a pressure cooker. Eventually, if you don't let the pressure off, it's going to explode. But how much time does it really take to reduce the pressure? Like seconds, just shh. And the pressure that normally would have led to an explosion has now been completely reduced. Everybody has 10 minutes in their day, everybody, to watch their favorite Netflix show or YouTube short or whatever. And if you're meditating every day for 10 minutes, guess what? You have a meditation practice. Even 5 minutes, if you do it every day, you have a practice. I have more pressure now with the businesses I run at this moment than I've ever had in my life. But personally, I have less anxiety and mental strain and pressure because of those than I've ever had. In fact, I had way more mental pain when I was in my 20s with nothing.
And I'm just listening to you there, and I'm thinking exactly that. As you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder what Len today, we won't say the age, but Len today would say to 20-year-old Len.
I know exactly what I would say. I would advise myself not to be so selfish and self-centered in all the things that I want to accomplish in my life, and really think about how to help others in reaching their goals, and really deeply wish others to be successful and wish others happiness, and then work hard to help them succeed. Because I think I've noticed also presently in my life, the more I can help others be successful and happy, the happier I am. And the more I try to be successful and happy, the less happy I am. So I think and I don't know if myself at 20 years old would absorb that thought, but I would say it.
Well, Len, thank you so much for today. There's so much in that conversation for everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule, by the way. But it's great that you've been able to share all of that and all of your experience and insight from that. So I really hope everyone tuning in today has really taken something from that. Thanks so much, Len.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you. Thanks so much, Adam.